technical glitch after fun opportunity in disguise, and that's what I call problems. And it's been interesting and fun. So obviously, again, my camera is all of the cameras actually just decided to not show up today on this, but we do have the guys here, and they're awesome, and I'm super pumped for this. So, guys, thank y'all so much. We're actually streaming through Greg, so thank you again, Greg.
Yeah, just make sure the sound check it, because I think I had it on mute. So just make sure that you can hear yourself on wherever you're streaming from there.
Okay,
Quickly.
let me triple check that while you guys introduce yourself, actually.
All right, excellent.
Please, go ahead.
All right, well, I'm used to hosting shows here. I usually I start the intro of everything, so a little bit different position for me, but I'm getting used to it because I'm doing more speaking. I'm going out there doing all kinds of different things and teaching and stuff like that. So, yeah, over on Rise TV, if you visit risemediatv.com, you'll see all of the stuff we do there. We have weekly shows. We do Sunday shows and we do Wednesday shows. The Wednesday shows is more of a co-manifestation, co-meditation event. So it's a follow along. Everybody follows along with us, and we have a really fun time doing that and really raising our vibrational levels, raising our consciousness, right? That kind of thing. And then on Sunday mornings, we've been doing this show called Rise TV for about 5 years. It was under a different name, Rise Up Radio Show, but now it's Rise TV, and we've had all kinds of guests on. And it's a lot of fun because we just hit on all kinds of topics. We're a very variety-based show. We will go very metaphysical. We will go sometimes political. And then we will do a lot of things in between. Me and Jarin both have personal training backgrounds, health backgrounds, spirituality backgrounds. So a lot of stuff that we do along with the other host, my wife, Victoria, who is a nurse. So we have a lot of variety of things that go on in the show. We really have our own segments. So it's kind of like a Tonight Show. It's kind of like watching a real produced show. And so when you come over and watch it, you're going to get the manifestation moment every episode for 10 minutes or so, which Jarin's going to do. He does a teaching moment for 10 minutes. You get the Greg Schumacher experience, which is 10 minutes of, a lot of times I'm reviewing movies. I'm bringing ideas out of movies and making them really interesting and amazing and things maybe you never thought of before. And then we have Victoria at the end doing the sunshine news, not the regular news that you see on the evening news, but the actual sunshine news, where she brings in a lot of great stories, really empowering stories, and then also some really funny stuff in animals and all kinds of stuff like that. So we have a lot of fun. It's a very structured show, and our guests really enjoy it, and we really enjoy meeting all those amazing guests out there, because we end up being a lot of times friends with them and really continuing on, relationships with them beyond the show, which is amazing to do. And sometimes I brought my mentors on, people I've idolized for a long time, and I brought them on, and it was just an amazing moment to do those type of things. And then you realize that they're just a human being, and they're even more amazing in person. So a lot of fun there. Jarin, how's it going, buddy?
Thanks, Brandon, for having us on. Yeah, Rise is about the phoenix rising within you. Everyone here watching this show right now is experiencing that. And sometimes it's smooth and fluid, and you think you've got it, you've got the hang of it. And then sometimes you run into disturbances and challenges. You meet your own face in the mirror. You meet projections of maybe other people's ideas of who you should be in the mirror. And the idea here is that we become more and more of who we really are and elevate our vibrations up to the point where we are living within the new earth, or the new Terra earth, and that we are living there and experiencing our day-to-day, especially activities with people that are of like mind that we're in resonance with, and that hopefully we're offering our passions and our purposes out to the world, our true passions, our true purposes, what we're really here to experience and what we're really here to bring to others. So Greg gave you a good amount of what the Rise Show is about. And I can tell you that, we enjoy the process and the journey just as much as the destination, right? It's about the journey. And everyone out there, I know you're on your own, and I know that you're intermingling with others on the journey. and not everybody gets it. And more are starting to open up and get it a little bit more and more and more. So thanks to you for most importantly, vibrating with who you are. And then secondly, sharing those gifts and insights and information to others so that we can awaken as many as we can on this planet, because the sooner that we all do, or a relative, let's say critical mass do, the sooner we'll be able to see the world we wish to see. So appreciate you having us on, Brandon. I know there's a lot we can talk about here, and mysterious man behind the video.
Yeah, the face behind the logo here. And again, apologies for that, guys. But you nailed it with this, gentleman. I'm so excited to have you on. And I was telling the wife out here before we got started here this evening how how warm you two are and how wonderful you are at what you do. You're just so presentable. You've got this amazing affable personality. You're convivial as fuck. All the big words that I can use to describe how wonderful you all are. And your guests do have an enjoyable time. You guys had me on, and I'm incredibly grateful. I was so blown away by just your flow, how you have your shit together. We just do conversations here. We leave the long pauses in, all that stuff. You guys have and you have great prep for your guests and everything. It's a legit, experience. And y'all have been doing it for so long. You're just so seasoned in this that you've been so comfortable broadcasting and behind a mic and in front of folks, telling people about yourselves and your opinions and what you feel and your experiences of being vulnerable. How did you get to that point? Was this always something within you two gentlemen, that you were just these outgoing folks, or was there some challenges there overcoming, stepping in front of a mic and in front of a camera as well? Whoever wants to take that first.
Hey, Jarin, why don't you take this one first?
All right. So not really for myself personally. Experience playing music in a band and dancing when I was a young lad in college in front of the crowd and whatnot. I found it more exhilarating than anything else in life, getting a chance to be in your passion and share that with other people. So for me, it wasn't really a worry of speaking in front of people. It's more of just, do I have my stuff together? I mean, am I prepared with my specifics, my offerings, and am I in tune in the moment? Sometimes we have the greatest experiences, sometimes we don't. But if we look back on it, a lot of that has to do with, are we in the moment? Did we get our own energy high and present? And are we allowing what's going on in the moment too? Because, sometimes we can be more expressive, and sometimes, it's about yourself. And sometimes you're with people where it's not about you as much, and you just fill in and you just observe and you're happy to be present, and you just kind of allow what wants to happen, always setting intention. For me, I always have better presentations or shows, and I know Greg and I do also as a team with Victoria, when we have set intention for how the show or how the experience will go before we just jump in. There's always a better result when you put consciousness and direction and feeling behind the experience you're going to have. So I think that's some of the greatest advice for anyone out there is, no matter what you have prepared and no matter how much you think if you can become present and you can set an intention just enough to where you feel it and you're ready to go, you'll watch it kind of happen naturally. You'll watch yourself not even know what you're going to say, and it'll come out. You'll watch synergy happen amongst other people. You'll watch the right topic come up. Sometimes you may even think a thought and then the conversation will come up without you having to initiate it. These kinds of things happen when you're in unity consciousness, and what I would think is, you're in the feel. You're in the feel of what's going on. If you're all wrapped up in your head overly, that's when the problems come in for all of us, myself included. You get lost in your story, you get lost in what happened a few minutes ago. You're like, oh, I had planned to do this and now I switched it. I said a word wrong. I went in the wrong way, all those kind of things. I think that's the greatest limitation, is to kind of say, hey, out, back into the body, move back into the moment, get back into the flow, and let my spirit speak, not necessarily my mind, my ego, let the real me out. And that's something that I think we're all growing into more and more, is who is the real me inside, and how do I tap into that real me? And then also, like, what is my passions and what is my talents, and why am I here at the planet at this time? Like, what is it I'm here to do, and what is it am I here to unleash or unlock? But I find it more exciting than anything else, whether like I said in the beginning, whether it's me getting a chance to shine, or whether it's seeing someone else shine, or the whole, the show shine, getting a chance to see Greg shine. That's what it's all about. And hopefully our dreams are coming true and we're walking through that.
Yeah, great
Beautiful.
stuff there, Jarin. I'm sorry, Brandon.
No, I was just saying beautiful. Same as you. We both complimented the man at the same time. Please,
Yeah.
Greg.
Well, my story isn't as bright and cheery as Jaren's. I was kind of a late bloomer in life, and my first memory of public speaking is I in a study hall in high school. I asked an older girl, so she was a grade older than me, in this study hall, as I was sitting next to her. I believe someone pressured me to do it, to ask her out. And what I said to her was, would you like to go to the movies on me on Saturday? And she said, oh, on you. And I was not smooth. I was all embarrassed. I could not recover. That was a plane crash right there. So it took me quite a while to find my confidence in life. Even after college, it was summers in my 20s where I started to really research. And actually, we're going to have Neil Donald Walsh on soon. And his book really helped me start to find my confidence, along with many other books that are similar, because I started to have this awakening. And once I found the universe, and it goes back to that teardrop, finding the ocean and realizing it's part of the ocean. That's what I realized. And I said, son of a bitch, this is what I've been waiting for. This is who I am. So I really started to gain the confidence of the universe and really started to flow forward and started to grow quickly. So that's when I really started to peak, right, in life, is in my later 20s to now, is when I really did all my growth and really started to have awareness. I did not have good awareness when I was younger. I remember just feeling lost all the time as a child, just lost in thought and didn't understand things and couldn't put one and two together. Just things that just didn't make sense to me. And then as I got to this point where I found my awakening, it just all started to download. And then I started to get into writing books and podcasting. I was not a good public speaker yet. And I met Jarin, and Jarin's a good public speaker. And I said to Jarin, I don't know how you do it. And he goes, well, if you can speak in front of 10 people, you can speak in front of 10,000. And I said, wow. I said, well, we'll see about that.
Did I say that?
Yes, you did.
The confidence, yeah.
Well, he had spoken in many places, and he had done really well. His manifestation teaching, his cosmic human design teaching. So he's very good at public speaking, and I had to develop it. But over time, I've really developed my skills and understood pacing and understood how to remain downloading from the higher source while you're speaking in front of people. But the more nervous you are, the more tense you are, the more tight you are, it ain't coming out that good. You're not downloading very good. So you have to be somewhat loose, and you have to just understand and understand that these people here in the audience, they are here to see you and the things you say. And you just got to flow and just have fun with it, right? Because the more authentic you are, the more it's going to come off as a connection. But the more fake you are, the more they're going to maybe reject you a little bit. So to me, it's always been just authentic, just be authenticity, just let it flow, have some fun, have some laughs. And we can get into deep subjects and deep topics, but overall, the thing I always say is could be. I don't know. I really don't know, because there's just so much to this world. Every time you peel back a layer, there's like 18 more layers. So I have no idea what it really is, although I'm very much leaning towards simulation. But I digress.
Yes, you digress. Speaking of segues, so why simulation? So let's talk about this, because I guess reality itself, the bells of this, and that's why the show is named Expanding Reality that I do on the regular. And then this show here, the Merging with Conscious Awakening, is the Expanding Awakening, right? So it all works out well. But the whole point of this is that this place is fragile lately, as far as what the structures have been presented to us when we were children. And so taking all of these juxtaposed ideals and putting them together in one mixing pot and saying, you know what, this all kind of fits together, and that people's subjective view of reality is actually taking paramount here rather than being, I'm just going to say gaslit, because I do feel that the structures that have told us what this place is know exactly what it is, and it's not what they're saying. And I have this strong feeling that that's exactly what's going on now. I used to think that it was for a nefarious end, and one could still view it that way, but I don't see a bad guy here, and we can absolutely get into that. And so it feels more of a motivating factor here. It feels just more of a structure here that we're born into, that's been here, that we're just like, oh, no, thank you. And we're cleaning this place up. So reality itself, it's bending, it's weird. We're going to talk about some freaky woo-woo experiences y'all have had as well. But what do you guys think about that? The simulation reality itself. First of all, each of you answer the question, do you think that it's what we've been told? And then secondly, just some of your guesses or favorite theories about what this is.
You want to go, Jarin, first?
Sure, I'll go on a short bit and just say that regardless of what it is, the way that I choose to perceive it right now is that everything is an illusion. So you have consciousness, and then you have, matter, or consciousness and manifestation, or consciousness and nature. You have the in and the out, and everything in the out inevitably is an illusion. It's the Maya. So no matter what, you're the creator of your reality, no matter how many variables are present there. Now, when it gets into the variable in relativity, like here at the dimension we've been at, in that current place in space, whatever that looks like, that's where we get into the playful stuff. That's when we get into the unknown, and that's what I think I humbly say, I really have no idea. I love to talk about different, topics on round or flat or this or that, or you could go on and on. And we have feelings, and I found that my feelings change over time with new information, and the more that I kind of adapt in my own consciousness. But I don't think anything is fixed no matter what. In fact, I know it's not. So you can in your own vibrational frequency, in a matter of a moment, let alone through a little bit of time, you can be in a completely different reality, or like a higher dimensional earth, if that's what you want to call it. And then you don't hold it, though. See, the thing is, then our meat bodies, or our carbon-based bodies, we kind of drop back down to homeostasis. And sometimes we come back down and we say, oh, that didn't happen. Or how did I do that? Or was that even real? And so we get back into the human game. But those of us that play the game of consciousness and practice with certain tools, we learn that we shift it in the moment. It's up to our attention, our energy. And what we see is basically a lot of what we believe. The finality that I'll say for this short bit of it, pass it on to Greg, is that consciously that's one thing, but really what's going on inside of the subconscious mind and in the program and in the cellular memories and what we truly believe inside is another. And so, I kind of have this set point of what we believe reality is that kind of creates that perpetually to be so. And consciously, you can really only do so much in certain bursts of time and experience to start to kind of update, alter, reprogram that inner belief system of what we believe reality is. So I know that Greg will probably go into some specifics here and have a great approach to it. But I just wanted to say that first, no matter what the game is, it's always a game in every dimension, in every place. It's just relative to consciousness and relative to frequency, but it's still an eternal experience that goes on forever.
Yeah, and Greg, before you get going, it's fascinating what you say about this, because the perspective opens up so many new ideals, because now we're saying that, the way that we've been experiencing this place, it didn't have to be like that. It was just simply apprehended in a way, meaning that it was just steered in a direction, because that's what consciousness does. It just goes there, fills the void of experience, right? And then now we have chosen a different experience at our independent levels that now need to is it dependent to come to a certain swelling point in the collective for it to be steered a certain way, for the energy to move back another way? Because then I'm reminded, as you were talking about this, about that theory, it's fun, that whenever CERN kicked on in 2012, it actually, we all died. But the thing about it is that we're all too stubborn, and we didn't know that because it happened so quickly, that we all continue to create reality because that's how powerful we are. So in a way, though, what is reality then, right? Because it's been bonkers since 2012. I think we could say that. And so I've just been, seeing this place as real, and that we all sort of create it with our minds, which is fascinating. But again, then it sort of not terrifies me. It gives me a bit of a huff to think that I need to wake people up, and that that's my job here, or that my influence of holding a certain amount of disposition is what triggers other folks waking up, which is dependent on us realizing this different existence, this better thing, to where the obvious silly things that we experience in this reality don't need to exist. So it just, again, the power of the mind, but it's sort of this idea of the collective mind, like a certain number of people getting together and creating reality. But through these systems of media and everything else, we've created the reality that, air quotes, they have wanted us to. And so that's what we've ended up, is what they've wanted us to. And this is an argument I've made about predictive programming, everything like that. When you see it in movies, like there's many examples of these, but when you see it in a movie and then it happens later on, these things are kind of put in your mind's eye for us all to create to happen in the physical. And in this observation of how it's, again, it's air quotes hijacked by they, then it's sort of this interesting way of looking at it based on what you said, that it's all, anything out there is created by you, but there is sort of this observable reality that you've been experiencing and really creating at the level that we're speaking about it now. And it's just interesting how it seems to be so independently garnered, but that it's all collectively affected, which is like one of the biggest mind fucks to me, to be honest with you. It's like, am I just here to do my shit and then I can have my awesome goal, of more people around me collecting around me to do this as well? Or like, do I need to convince a certain number of people that the government's full of shit and stop listening to them? And then maybe one day we'll get like Shangri-La or something, or that's when the aliens will come down. It's an interesting thing about us creating reality. And again, guys, we could talk about this all night. So Greg, what do you think about this shindig that we're doing here?
So, when I think, just quickly, I want to comment on what you just said there. The CERN thing, I think that there's a lot of things they put out there that may not be true, but they put it out there on purpose to get us to think a certain thing. Agreed. So I'm always a little weary of things in the news like that because they purposefully put it there. Just like this new strain of the sea coming our way, they say. And they say it's going to come from 4 different sources predicting. Harvard scientists predicting. How in the frig do they know and can predict from 4 sources, including your own personal pets, this is going to come from? It's either, I think they said meat or personal pets. Of course, they're going to hit both sides of you, right? So there's a lot of things out there I just got to be weary of. I don't know. And I get your point. I mean, obviously CERN was a big thing. But I'm also weary of, why do they tell us? Why wouldn't they just keep it as top secret? Why do they want to tell us? So it's just interesting. There's just a lot of stuff that goes on there. But
I agree. I don't believe anything's leaked. I think, like you, it's put in front of you on very much purpose, and it's so that you can maybe create the possibility. Because again, even this new variant thing, now what is going to happen? Now all these people who have bought into this, if they're real people at all, and we're going to get there, are now running out to get masks and toilet paper and all sorts of stuff. So now they're fueling the energy to create this whatever the hell, even though it's nothing. It's a whisper in the ear of a game of telephone. Yep. And these things, whatever they are, it's very few in number, but they know so well us, whatever we are, and they know how to play us. They just whisper in our ear, man. And then there's this wave of fire and panic that goes over. It's so easy, right?
Oh, so easy. Oh, beautifully said, Brandon. It's so easy. I am very shocked by our weakness in this society, but I can see where it came from. Over many, many years, people have got less and less and less tough, and they don't think for themselves. they're too busy, they're too distracted, and all of a sudden, here comes the zombies, and they just get pushed wherever they want to be. So let me get into the simulation theory real quick. So I like to tell stories because I think they're really fun, and I think human beings were meant to learn through stories, especially ancient times around campfires, perfect theme to learn lessons. So I used to have this friend in my 20s, and he was from Russia. So he had a Russian accent, and he was an interesting guy. You ever had some weird friends that you just loved them? You just loved your friends, but they are weird. They have weird traits and things that went on, and boy, he'd make me laugh. So he would say, we went on our spiritual journey kind of together. We did a lot of ups and downs. We did a lot of mantras where we created gigantic thunderstorms. We did a lot of just things together that would be awakening process, and it was a lot of fun. But one thing he would say is, if he said, hey, you remember when I did this certain thing? And I would look at my friend and I would say, I don't think so. I don't ever remember you doing that. And he's like, oh, must have been different universe. So he really believed that he was in a different universe when that happened. So in his mind, he's switching universes all the time. So the Greg in a different universe saw that happen. It wasn't him forgetting or thinking that he did something he didn't. It was that it actually happened in a different universe. So that's the multi-dimensional theory, right? That there is multiple scenarios to things. Like you said, maybe we all died at one point for as humanity, but in a different dimension where we were too stubborn, we went to the other dimension. We said, no, we didn't die. We're here. We're good. Maybe it's a multi-dimensional thing, but in the structure of what that is, I believe it's a simulation. And the reason why is because we're getting closer and closer in technology, number one. And I believe we already have the technology. They just wean out the technology to us to get us as consumers, right? Just like everything else, we're zombies like consumers, right? The Apple phone is already 10 steps ahead, but they're gonna slowly give you a little bit of technology at a time, right? That's just the way it's gonna work. So there's a series called Westworld, and I talked to Jarin about this a little bit the other day. In this series, I don't know if you've seen it, but in this series, these two creators made a world that was run with androids, AI, but they looked exactly like human beings, and they acted just like human beings. You couldn't tell the difference most of the time. And what they did was they created a Disney World for adults. They could go to this world, they could go in the secret entrance, and suddenly be in a Western-themed world where there was prostitutes and there was shootouts and there was, saloons and there was all kinds of things. And you live there for a week, 2 weeks, a month, whatever you wanted to live there for. That's how long you lived there. Well, in that series, as the story progressed, the AI started to become conscious. They started to realize themselves. They realized that they were getting destroyed, going back down underneath the domes underneath the Westworld, getting fixed, coming back up, and doing the same exact day again as that same person. They just kept on rerunning. But the biggest part of that was there was a guy in it that had been there for 30 years. And he was determined to find out the secrets that were left in the world. So there was things buried in there that would tell more to the story of what Westworld really is. So he started to find these clues. And as he started to find them, he started to realize that this world wasn't always Westworld. There was other worlds, and there was other things that had gone on. There was those characters that were playing those roles were other characters and other stories many times over and over. And that's what some of these AI were having memories too. They were having memories flipping all the way back to another time where they were a mother of a child, or they were a father, or whatever it was, so they had these many different roles. And I think that in this world, what we're discovering with mud flood theory, with the ancient pyramids, with all of these different artifacts around the world, we're discovering that there was a whole nother world before we were here now. Now, were we part of that world? Were we there doing the events of that world back then? Who knows? But I believe that this is a simulation set up by a creator, and that creator has left hints everywhere, because as they become uncovered, as we become more conscious, as the internet gets better and better, and we're able to communicate so quickly, seeing things across the world everywhere, seeing a TikTok video in 1 minute and changing our mind completely about some subject. Like, whoa, I never knew that existed. Oh my God. So we are now changing the world with this thing called internet that's free for some reason. Why is the World Wide Web just free for everybody? Why is it just out there for everybody to just use? What's its purpose? Where did it come from? Who put it out there? And why is it sustained for so long? It's very interesting, all that stuff. But I think the simulation theory is as close as you're going to get to what's going on here. Now, I don't know what that means, what the creator's doing, or what it is for our future, or if we're in control or not. I hope we're in control to an extent. I hope we have some free will. I hope our thoughts and everything can really do some great stuff. But pretty interesting. I don't know. What's your guys' thoughts?
It's so interesting, dude. Jarin, what were you going to say?
Well, a few things. It's mathematically impossible for it not to be a simulation.
Fair.
Then the other flip side of the coin to that, in my view, is there is no time. So this is the beginning and the end right now. And so it's real. So is it a simulation or is it real? Are you the one of the source of let there be light, or are you not? See, in relativity, in the game of experiencing time, perceiving space, and perceiving all the other things, especially with our senses, which might explain a lot of, we cannot only see 1% of what's actually there, even in our little spot in space, so to speak. Anyways, I just think that both sides are true, that there is a now and it's real, and there's always organic, natural, infinite and eternal intelligence and energy in and around everything, and everything happens from the inside out. It's the only way it can be. And then at the same time, it's a simulation. And within this simulation, this game that we're all choosing to participate in, we have two possibilities. I know this is a very direct to an abstract, long answer, but one is you follow the program of what is predictable, what is normal, and what the herd follows. And the other is you build your own world within it, and you align with people that are also building their world within it. And so some of us, the three of us on this show, we're choosing to build our own world and link with people that are of resonant frequency and of synergy, even if we don't know what it is yet, to experience building that world, while the majority or the program may just follow that one. And our test of faith and our test of courage and authenticity, like Greg said earlier, such a big word, because when you're authentic, the cosmos can help you. When we are one with that, does it even matter what's going on in the program? Or let's call it a normal or on average? Well, it does, because we're playing in the same game. We are, but still we create our own, so I just think that it's easier to follow what you're told, where you just go through with it. And it's a little bit more, you have to get a little bit more effort, yet you get more joy, satisfaction, and fulfillment out of wanting to build your own world, or at least take steps, right? And work towards building your own world. So you're not just giving into what David Icke says, right? Information controls perception, which controls behavior. And that's what we've been programmed to do as children, whether it's our parents, or into extended family, then into schools, then into TV, then it goes on and on and on. Your local area, your race, your gender, all these things kick us into, well, this is how I'm supposed to live. This is how it is. Well, no, that's not how it is. Everything is really a blank slate all the time. But you have to work on painting your own picture of what you want your life to be. And I think that's part of the reason we're here, amongst other things, is to remember that so that we can once again be painting our picture of what we want to experience and gather the satisfaction that comes from remembering who we really are.
Man, it's one of these things because when we look at like the technocratic movement, let's say, I think of it. I had this guy named Crow 777 on. You guys should totally have him on your show. And he was talking about this in relation to the through the Time Machine, right? Jules Verne's, but really the movie. Have you guys ever seen the movie, The Time Machine? Okay, with the dude, and whenever they run all the way through to the future, and they've got the Morlocks and then the people that live on the surface, this peaceful existence versus these people underground. This is sort of the split that we're talking about here, right? Is this physical, like these folks are going to go over there, and maybe that's what the deep underground military bases may be about, is sort of this, all right, you're in this 5G control now, and maybe they're scaring everybody to get off the surface, and then we'll offer the underground and leave the damn surface to us, which I'm fine with. I don't know about y'all. You know, all of these things sort of play out where you think that there is going to be this physical split. And Jarin, as you're talking about this, I'm reminded of Bashar when he was channeling and said that, you know, there is this split, and what will occur is basically like glass walls. So yes, you'll see it, but the shrapnel won't hit you. Like it's not, you're not affected by it unless you want to take it in through the glass wall and feel it the same way as you emote through a movie. If you're crying in a movie, and it's very intense. Now, Land Before Time, and you get pulled out of the theater by your mom, that's different. Okay, that's everybody's done that. But you know, things that really get you emotional, they're just on a screen. And so, in the same way, even though it is what we have called reality around us, it's interesting now because we're going to basically be seeing this stuff, but not be affected by it at all. You know, the old Bill Hicks thing. I see on the news, it's war, famine, death, destruction, chaos, destruction. And he said, and you look out your window and it's crickets. It's where's this shit happening? Yeah. And so it calls really into question sort of the bullshit on what we're being fed. Like, is any of it real? Yeah. You think of that movie Wag the Dog, right? Where the whole thing was staged. And a lot of people have pointed this out in a lot of footage. And then you talk about crisis actors and you go down that rabbit hole of the fakeitude that goes on and what's being presented is absolute real. Anybody who's researched NASA for 5 seconds knows that. But it's an interesting paradox as far as, again, what's occurring that isn't affecting you. And this is sort of the walking the tightrope idea, but it's not really a tightrope. It's a tightrope of your making, and you're totally safe, but sort of understanding the concepts and really embodying the idea that you're absolutely safe and that your reality is safe with you, and that they're just sort of going to, you know, fuck off for a better term and go over there, and then we're just going to kind of do our own thing. Do you guys think that what this is going to look like?
I'm going to say that there's going to be something like that, because I go to the local store and I just watch the zombies walk around. And it's not offense to anybody out there who, you know, might take offense to that. But if you are taking offense to it, you probably aren't one of them. But I go there, and I think I've talked about non-player characters before, but I mean, there's no way that these people could have these higher conversations. They're so down in vibrational levels. It would be light years away from where we're talking right now. And there's people that are light years away from where we are right now. But I just look at that and I'm like, there's no way they can come along. If there's going to be some higher plane, amazing new place to live, new earth or whatever you want to call it, I don't see these people being there because they just wouldn't fit. They wouldn't understand. They'd be like, where's my cigarettes? Like, all I want is my lottery tickets and my cigarettes, you know? So
yeah,
I don't know. I don't know what that looks like, but I mean, to me, there's got to be some kind of divide. Whether, I mean, again, what is death anyways? You know, I look at life now for the 45 years I've been on Earth. And for a while, I was upset about death and didn't understand it and all that stuff. But now at this point, I mean, death to me is just another layer to where you're going. You're either going to be recycled back in the game, or you're going to go someplace where you're going to remember everything and you're going to say, oh, that was a fun virtual reality experience I just had. That felt like 45 years, but it was actually like 5 minutes or whatever. So, we don't know exactly what's going on here, but to me, we are in a simulation, and that I don't know that death is all that we think it is. And maybe all of these people that don't fit aren't going to be here, whatever way that is. Maybe it's through death. I don't know. But that was the whole big thing with the COVID, right? Is that they talked about that a lot, about, those jabby things.
Yeah,
So,
and I mean, on this show we can talk about whatever we want. So
okay, I wasn't
we
sure.
may
I
as
didn't want to.
I know, and that's okay. And thank you for the
Yeah.
consideration. I didn't want to interrupt you earlier whenever I heard it occurring, but speak how you speak. Nothing is censored here.
Okay.
And it's interesting whenever you start to hear the new conspiracy theories, because even those are letting folks know, hey, there's something coming.
Mhm.
And so it's almost in my mind, I mean, it's sort of helpful in the way, and I can see why it's done. There's a certain reading level of folks that need to be read to in that way, and that need to see the game in that way, and that's fine, because folks like us know to alchemize the things as they come, or at least we're going to be mindful to do so. That's what I'm practicing at the moment. I abandoned the term conspiracy theorist a long time ago and went with conspiracy analyst, Charlie Robinson's nomenclature about this. And it just feels more apt, because I'll look at it, I'll see what you guys are talking about, but also I am absolutely going to send you pictures of the inflatable plane that they use, that they said a bunch of people hopped on and were thrown off of. It's an inflatable plane, guys, and you can see it back from World War II. Patton used the technique. It's a fascinating thing, and it's just a reoccurring psyop. So I'll look into it, but as a conspiracy analyst, I'm not going to take it on and let it ruin my vibe, dude. I've got a great thing going on, and if I'm adding to the fear of it, then it's not something I'm interested in. That being said, there's a new one that came out that's pretty interesting. Are you guys interested in conversing about the possible next steps of the agenda in a way that I feel will be constructive? What do you guys think?
Go for it.
All right. So it feels that now there is a new push that anybody who ended up getting the jab more than 4 times is now going to just apparently crossover, cease to exist in some respects, all at once. So the theory goes, and again, this is not fear mongering, this is alchemization. The theory goes that about 3 billion people that have signed up on Note for the amount that they're talking about, which is an inordinate amount, by the way. And I've sort of said this from the beginning about the first and second shotters, because those were scared for jobs, trying to keep kids, relationship stuff, figuring things out. I feel that there's a lot of alchemy that occurred with that first and second shot. So anybody out there that's like, dude, I did it for my job, my wife, my kid, whatever, I feel that there is a grace period in that, and that was just granted to you because it's what woke you up. And so therefore unburden yourself by that. And that's just my personal opinion on that. But the people who were yelling at you for your choice of sovereignty, not based on anything other than that they were told that they should do so. The folks that were wearing masks in cars, taping them up over vents and all of that kind of stuff for a long time, then those are the kind of folks allegedly who were being weeded out of the herd, as it were. And so in a way, you can look at this. Yes, it's a eugenics program. But if we look at it with some emotional maturity, and we could say from the lens that there's no bad guy here, if something like that were to occur, first of all, we all feel that we're coming to the understanding rather, that things here operate on an energetic level, and that if folks check out, let's call it that, and choose to return to source, that's their choosing, and that it was at that time that they needed to do so. So let's also take this a little bit further with a little bit more emotional maturity and add to it that they would then just choose to go on and leave this place to the people that chose not to do that. Now, that is a split of sorts, right? That is a split of people who said no thank you, or the first one woke me up and no thank you. But then also, to be fair and devil's advocate the shit out of the other side of this, it gets a little revelation-y in my mind. It gets a little, we made the right choice, so we get to keep the beautiful place and create a better one because you're not around anymore. You're stinking up the place with your bad vibes, which is not untrue. But then also there's sort of some punishment in the form of non-life that these people at a level chose, but still will be apparent in this place, that not only will result in, yes, an aftermath of, I guess, way in the future. I don't know what the timeline would look like on that, but you could think about the immediate vanishing of 3 billion souls on this place. And we're not talking about like poofing out of existence. You know, we're talking about like deaths of physical bodies of people flying planes and, these things. And so there'd be fallout beyond that number. After that, let's say, the time period in which that mentality didn't exist in those numbers. It's a fucking weird conversation to have, guys, and I understand this, but there are talks of that this is what this was all about, okay? And so this is why I'm bringing this up as an objective question here. What do you guys think of, first of all, the capability of an organization within the world's governments, all of them, because this is a coordinated attack, is what it would be at that point. Do you think that they're capable of that, first of all? And secondly, what do you guys think about that whole idea? Like, how in knots does that turn your stomach, if at all?
Jarin?
That's a whole lot to unwrap, brother.
It's,
Yeah.
I know,
I don't pretend to know. What I know in a little story time is I was told back in 2011 in India by a teacher, Dr. Pillai, and a lot of things happened during that segment of time. During that hour we were getting spoken to, there was a lot of beyond normal things going on. So I was kind of in a zone of, wow, where am I and what is going on? Okay. So I just took it as a little bit of value. And in that moment, he had said, before all these things happened, even before 2012, that 70% of the planet would not be going through. And I said, oh, okay. Actually, at that time, I said, no way. I was all service-based, save the world. Like, no way. No way. It's going to be way less than that. The next generation's coming up. It's not going to be that many, but I had that spoken to me. So I was kind of like prepared, I guess you could say, without believing it, just observing it, that a lot would not go through. And then I think there's a variety of different things that we could talk about that influence that, direction of do they or don't they. I think one of the greater questions, and maybe I'm not answering yours, but is it they're leaving and we're staying, or is it those of us that are ascending are actually ascending to a new world?
Right. This is the question. And what does this split look like? You know what I mean? Because when we start to conceptualize what does this thing look like, and then a theory like that comes up, now what it looks like is Gaia is going to hang out with us, and they're going to go to heaven or wherever the hell, back to the simulation, back to the code. But I mean, what is that, right? It's, yes, a split, but this is one of the things, right?
Yeah, let me pass it on to Greg and just say this last statement. To me, and I don't know necessarily what this looks like, but I've experienced it for a certain amount of time. It's alchemy, and eventually the flash of light is inside, and many of us become the light body. And as we become the light body, we enter and we experience an entire different paradigm. And I do believe that in relativity is coming together for many of us, whenever that is, at a certain time when we arrive there. I believe that is a necessary prerequisite, is that our bodies must transform its composition. If you want to call it crystalline light body, you want to call it, there's a lot of different ways people talk about, like Greg's got that DNA next to him there, the evolving DNA inside of our beingness. That's really, to me, where we're heading to the ultimate. And maybe a lot of people are not choosing to do that. They're going to continue the next 20, let's call it a 25,000 year constellation cycle again. Or they're going to choose the parallel reality, which brings up another thought, right? With the parasite parallel reality and the archons and everything else that's going on. And are we going to stay in the organic real reality? See, I don't know. I could talk forever and switch subjects like crazy here, but that's more of, I think we need to be more concerned about ourselves and where we're heading rather than where everything else is going.
Could not agree more. I dig it.
Yeah, Brandon, we're having a conceptual conversation here, and it's very difficult to sometimes navigate exactly where you want to go because there's so, like Jarin said, there's so many different directions here we could take this. But to me, like if I look at the movie Lucy, where she starts to advance very quickly and starts to see the world as it really is, right, mathematically, and being able to figure things out and divide her hands into many hands and to do all kinds of things, right? And I think that's where we could ultimately go. We could be so advanced at some point, whether it's with AI as well, assisting, right? And people are so scared of AI, but they use AI every single day of their life. And they're also running a program every single day of their life. They're in loops all the time. So, you got to be careful with people love throwing rocks in glass houses, but they don't understand that, hey, listen, you're using exactly what you're talking about every day. Are you living, off the grid and in a tent, or are you using your Apple phone? Well, if you're using your Apple phone, you're using your AI. You're part of AI now, and AI is predicting your life in a lot of ways, with dings and messages and whatever else it's doing. So we got to be careful on how we say things and how we do things, because I see a lot of people speaking out about certain things, and then I think about it. I step back, and I've been better about this because COVID kind of taught me that. It taught me over many years to step back and to say, don't get so emotional about this. Let's just look. Let's just look and observe and see what's really going on here. Is this a real argument? Is this a real headline? Is this a this, or this? Because I think that's what it's teaching us. This whole simulation program that's going on in the last 3 years is it's teaching us, for the ones that will, to pull out into awareness. And that's how we're really supposed to be living. We're refocusing our camera, so to speak. So let's say your camera's in a distance and it's a little blurry and you can't really tell what's going on. You're kind of living life, but it's kind of blurry. You don't really know. But if you pull back that camera, just zoom it just a little bit, all of a sudden it starts to become clearer. You focus it, you dial it in, and all of a sudden the awareness opens up and you start to see things a lot more crystal clear. And so we're starting to see and pull all these amazing ideas. I see them all over your Instagram page. All of these mud floods and all of these ideas that people are discovering right now, they're all pouring out at light speed. I can go on TikTok and I have my favorite followers and I can go right through there and I can learn thing after thing after thing after thing of new stuff I've never heard before, discoveries, new places on Earth that I've never heard of before. All of a sudden they're there for Greg to see. Were they always there? Or is the simulation putting them in? Is it putting in the USB card and it's allowing it to download into our system? I don't know. But to me, if we're talking about a simulation and we're talking about people, what are we going, where are we going next? What's going to happen next? To me, there's a whole group on the planet that are kind of ascending together. And whatever ascension means, it's going to frequency vibrate to a different place. Now, does that mean those people die off, or do they stay where they are? And there may be a carbon copy of Greg and Jarin and Brandon in that world, living the 3D life. But we, in these conscious bodies, have graduated and vibrated to a new frequency. And I think that we already are starting to do that. And each morning we wake up, we might be in a little bit different frequency world. I'm seeing a lot of weird stuff out here now. I'm learning about a lot of weird stuff. And you know what? It's not as affecting me as much as it would have. Back when, 10 years ago, you started showing me all this stuff, my mind would have like smoked out. Like, oh my God, mud flood? Like, what is this? What do you mean there was a whole civilization that was here and it ran on free energy and it was buried and everything else? What do you mean about Russian pyramids being shaped a certain way, that they are for healing and for sound frequency, and all these churches and old ancient buildings, they're all former buildings of sound frequency. They were meant for something completely different than what churches are. And all of these things that we uncover on a daily basis, to me, I don't get my mind blown anymore. I don't. I enjoy it. And I say, okay, cool. That's another little thing that we find. So to me, I'm a different person than I was 10 years ago. And does that mean I have vibrated and I'm a different frequency so that I'm not down here where my emotions were in relationships and with work and with this and with that? That's where I sat. That's the things that bothered me. And yes, I thought a little bit higher and I would like to go and read books. I'd like to awaken a little bit. But really where my life sat was trying to find a girl and trying to do that. Those were my issues. Now my issues are way up here and I don't even get that affected by them. Something's going on here in the programming, in the system. I'm raising my vibrational levels. So my simulation is different. I'm in a different video game, so to speak. That's just my take on how I see it.
It's interesting, and it's fascinating too when you bring up things like the mud flood, dude. I've had Matt Terillian on from the Great Deception podcast. He's incredible. I've got Matthew Smith coming on, and also we're going to do one on here. Could not recommend these guys for y'all's show either. Could not recommend them more either, rather. They'll do a whole presentation where they take over the screen and they'll show you all this evidence of all this fascinating stuff that just doesn't fit the narrative. And then when you think about like all the history and even breaking the phonetics down of it, to his story, all the stuff about it, it just makes sense to where they don't know. And it's fascinating to me too, growing up. And whenever you're a kid, you think adults just have all the answers, and then you grow up and you're just like, oh shit, they're just kind of like winging it, and making this stuff up. And then I talked to so many people on the show too, like these archaeologists and these crazy interesting people who were like, yeah, I was just wandering around. It was just right by this trail. I kind of just had to walk over here, and then boom, I discovered like El Dorado. And I'm like, what are you talking about? They're like, yeah, this huge crazy stuff, or the equivalent of it, and all these petroglyphs and things. But it's like these things that are right there, but they don't know so much about this place. But I also feel that there's so much they do know about this place that they don't tell you on purpose. And it's meant to be sort of, I feel, obviously presented in the opposite direction. And so that naturally we start gravitating towards conversations like the shape of the earth. Like, what the hell is this thing? Like, is, the woods of the Pacific Northwest just sort of a portal area, and it's like the equivalent of a back door for this alien realm, where that's where they let their Bigfoots out to go take their dumps, is in the woods of, the Pacific Northwest. And that's why people see them and stuff. And then that's why they vanish. I don't know. Like, there's so many mysteries here and so many incredibly interesting things. And when you talk about like ghosts and time travel, and because I'm with you, Jarin, I don't know about time, man. I think it's necessary for this experience. And I'll say that. And just simply because of the, change is the aspect that we're looking for here. And what that looks like is over duration. And so duration occurs over time. So with those elements involved, that's sort of, I feel, an important part of this experience, just in the way that it's present, but also in a way that we can absolutely conceptualize that time is malleable and flexible. And then we start to hear stories about time travel, which I absolutely love. And it just blows my mind. And even better than the movies, like the Al Bielek story, to where he fell off the USS Eldridge for the Philadelphia experiment and traveled like 2,000 years into the future or something like that. And California was underwater. He saw these maps, like this crazy, interesting shit. And it's like this realm holds so many mysteries and so many amazing things that I think that it's, what's occurring around here. And yes, it's horrible. I think it's more than anything boring. I think that that's what really we've discovered is it's just boring getting lied to all the time. It's boring being like talked to like an idiot, and like we're just over the subjugation and just all this shit, right? And so when it lost its appeal, things like fairies and fucking time travel and aliens, that's pretty damn appealing. And like self-empowerment, and that you can create your own reality, these things are going to become more and more attractive. And it's folks like y'all and what we're doing with the show here and the other stuff that we're doing. I mean, this is the message we're amplifying out to everyone, is the one of empowerment, that guys, steer your own ship, have these conversations. Even with this, guys, we're talking about some conspiracy theory shit. you kind of get a little sacral, a little choke up in the throat chakra there when you start talking about this stuff, because that you're planting seeds perhaps, but also it's part of the conversation of enlightenment. I feel that we could step out of the fucking bubble of, oh, we're creating this as we go and we're fear mongering, and because obviously this isn't going to be pulled as a clip for sensationalism. Like we're not into that shit. So it's part of the conversation, because this is then what I have found also with this, inspiring parents to really get their shit together as far as what's going on with their children, as far as education, what they're being fed, what they're consuming in their free time and for entertainment. They're just taking this mindful approach to these things. And that's not really something I don't feel that my parents did. I think like y'all's, they did the best they could with the information they had at the time. And at the time, we were being handed down coping mechanisms. At the same time, we were handed down ancestral trauma. And that's just the way that it'd been. And it'd been handed down to their parents and their parents before them. And it's just the way it go until it hit us, right? But there is this sweeping movement. I do not disagree with you boys. I think both of what you're saying here is just eye-opening, and it's part of the conversation, and that's why I love sitting down with y'all. This is just one of my favorite things, is sitting down with these two minds and souls right here, to experience this type of chat. So I am curious about some freaky woo-woo that y'all have had. Let's shift gears a little bit here, because I want to talk about personal experiences that make you feel that this place is not absolutely flexible and all that, or secured. It's more flexible and all that stuff. So Jarin, have you had anything like that? Any freaky woo-woo, as the kids call it?
Well, it's a perfect segue, because going back to the last segment, just a quick phrase I was going to say is that, what do you really know unless you've experienced it? Right? We see all this info out there. We hear all these stories, but that's all they are. You haven't experienced it for yourself. And you may say, well, I trust that person. Okay. That's relatively there, but still, did you experience it yourself? And I'll say that the weather is changing, whether it's a simulation or natural order, the weather is changing. So we're all in a shift. And then there's the free will of you're the individual self in the shift. And so, what matters more than your attention and your direction in life and what you learn from in your own experiences? And that's just what I wanted to stay there. Now, going back to like stories, I have a lot. I mean, I sometimes I have to dig them back out there in the chamber, or pluck them out of the quantum field so I can remember them again. But I mean, that's when I started to, for me, observing how my thoughts would create reality, my writing would create reality, communicating something out loud and it would manifest. That's kind of what got me going into this field, originally. And then the synchronicities and the alignment with nature and with everything, where you start to see how everything is morphing to you. And there's clues. You start to see the signs. You start to see what the animals are trying to tell you. It's almost like you're communicating with them. You start to, witness so much more than you ever would have before, and so much oneness. And that to me is what true like beauty and exhilaration is when I can experience those moments of greater oneness. And then in these, going back to the light body, I say this, and sometimes people may perceive it as egoic or that I'm making it up or whatever, but I've experienced my body turning the light. And in those moments, it was 2 times specifically, but one time I had a person with me and it lasted a good 10 minutes. You don't question things, like you're so high, you only think positive thought. You can't even try to think negative. And your breath and thoughts dictate the amount of light that you have and the aura that you have. Okay. And when I witnessed it the second time, I held it a little bit longer. This was years ago. I held it, but I could never go back after that point. So for me, in a personal experience, it's like, yes, manifestation, yes, magical stuff, yes, turning power on and off with your thoughts, yes, all kinds of other crazy scenarios can happen. And I had a lot of them in India and Mount Shasta and Mount Haleakala in Maui, which is where I was in 2012, ironically. Those kind of experiences, but that one for me was like, wow, all right. Some of these teachers out there are not making it up. We are really a body of light, and we are going to get to a time where we are that body of light. And when we are that body of light, time will be meaningless, money will be meaningless, and everything is possible. And suffering is gone. And that's all I can say in an experience. But when you get out of it, then it's like, oh man, I'm back here. I'm feeling this, tightening over here. My boringness is limitation. That's what's boring. I'm frustrated being limited. And every time you expand, then there's another contraction. And then you expand, and then there's another contraction. And then you add on, and then you have to let go. And then you add on, you have to let go again. So for me, it's frustration in the time, and frustration in some of those experiences, and then frustration in the physicality of any types of suffering. And so this is true. The Palladian message is true. What the Indian teachers say is true. And you are a body of light. And to me, that is the most amazing, mind-blowing experience that you can have for the human mind anyways. And that's still probably to this day, even though I could go through other stories, the greatest impact that it made on me was that.
Damn, that's interesting. Body of light. Greg, body of light, have you got anything like that? Chupacabra, perhaps? Chupacabra turning into a body of light.
Yeah, right. Well, Jarin, there's a reason why we're the limitless mindset culture over here, Rise TV, because we really do believe in limitless thinking, right? We're so boxed in with everything. We make our own fence in our own property, and we don't want to go outside that fence. And when someone comes with an idea that it's over the other side of the fence, we're like, I don't know you, and you're weird. Please go away. And so we're not limitless, we need to really be there. And that's what I love about Jarin, especially, being part of the show and a friend of mine, is that we can go limitless with many conversations. And it's so much fun to just do those times where you can just go out there and just come up with amazing new ideas and just create. But as far as supernatural, right? You're thinking like things that happened in my life that might have been really interesting, really out there. I want to give one example that's not necessarily way out there, but it was an experience that has stuck with me a very long time. And then I'll give you two other quick ones that are more of that. So I was on a hike one time, and it was a hike familiar to me. I had been on it many times, but there was a path I had never been down before. And nobody really knew I was on this hike. I like to do that because I was taught by a mentor to disappear from the matrix and go out someplace so they don't know where you are, so that you can have your actual own thoughts and your own time to yourself, because they are always watching and they're always trying to control you. So they panic when you're not around. And I don't know if anybody's ever experienced this, but have you ever disappeared purposefully and your mother or your girlfriend or somebody panics? There's the worst, it's the most biggest emergency ever that you need to come back, like the Truman Show. And you're like, why did that happen right in that moment when I disappeared? Nobody knew anything. Everybody was doing their own thing. And all of a sudden, it's a big emergency. So when I get back to my phone, a lot of times when I disappear like that, it is like blowing up with craziness that's going on in my life. The Matrix is trying to draw you back in. Where the fuck did he go? Get him back. Just like the Truman Show. And that's why I also believe it's a simulation. But I was out on this hike, and I decided that on my way back down the mountain, I was going to take that other path. It was quite a long walk, many, many miles, but I came to this amazing little lake that was, nobody was around. There wasn't a single soul and no signal. There was nothing. There was nobody for the entire, I guess, couple hours I was down in there. Nobody. I was felt like the last person on earth. In that moment, it was the most perfect day, beautiful sunshine. I stripped down, I went into the lake, and I just spent time in the sun and just, laid there and enjoyed. And I felt like I was in a different world for a little bit. I honestly felt that way. Things looked different. The trees looked different. The simulation looked different in that moment. It was hard for me to leave. It was really hard, but I was like, it's getting late. I'm going to run out of light before I know it. But I've never been back down there since. But that was quite the moment. And I just wanted to bring that up because it doesn't necessarily have to be a ghost or a spirit or an alien. It can be your own experience of feeling complete oneness with Earth. And in that moment, I felt that. It was unbelievable. I didn't even feel like I was a human being at that point. I was just meant to be there. I was just at the pond as a tree or something, whatever. So pretty interesting a little example there. And then my second one, I don't know if you wanted to make a comment, Brandon.
No,
You're good.
excuse me. I'm just listening. It's great. Please go ahead.
Okay. So my second example was in my 20s, I worked at a community center, and there was a pool. And there was this blonde girl who was lifeguarding down there. And she was a friend of a friend, and we ended up spending a lot of time out doing things together and talking with her and stuff. And we even went over to her house at one point. And she ended up getting cancer, and she ended up dying. And it was one of the first times I ever experienced like a friend dying. And I was with my buddy, the Russian buddy I talked about earlier. And we decided after the news of this that we would go home and we would do our favorite mantra together. Now, this is like a chanting mantra, and this is quite a long mantra. I think it was like a Mother Mary mantra or something like that, a Saint Germain mantra. We just found this website that was so authentic. It was so good. I probably could never find it again. So we started doing these chants. And I swear to God, she got inside me. And she was tickling me from the inside. I was laughing uncontrollably for a good 10 minutes. I was out of breath. I couldn't stop laughing. And I could feel her spirit inside of me, enjoying being the spirit she was, the free spirit out of her body, and having an amazing moment with me as I was basically celebrating her life through this mantra. It was a really, really impactful experience for sure.
God, that's powerful, dude.
Yeah. And that was a really good one.
It's one of those real ones. It's one of the ones that keeps you, believing that there's something bigger out here, that there's something greater. It gives you this peace that you can look in somebody else's eyes who's going through something like that and just be there in a look, with them because you can feel the knowing of it. And it's just such an interesting concept, man. I've read so many books on channeling and near-death experience this year, and it's just sort of been a focus along with the UFO stuff. But it's been an interesting study to go down the ramp of how people who've had these near-death experiences or been close to shared death experiences, right, or in proximity while somebody crossed over, and the impact that it has on people, and really the impact that the dying have on the living is fascinating to me. It's that's what they say about funerals, right? Funerals are for the living, and death is for the living's for the dead, and it's one of these trade-off deals to where, man, it's perspective. It gives you so much perspective, and then it makes you think, whatever the narrative is happening or what's going on in the news or something, it's not important, because you have these amazing experiences, and maybe that's a part of their purpose, not of course their sole purpose, but the idea to kind of pull you out of the structure, the rigidity that you're being presented with, and you can confidently research, what your heart is being pulled towards, with the experiences like that. I just think they're beautiful, man. I've had them in psychedelics, and that's it. I'm not an outward experiencer so far. I'm very, very open to it, and we've called in all kinds of good stuff, so we'll see. But psychedelics offered, Greg, to back your point up, man. DMT showed me this bitch is a simulation, but it's fun and it's full of all sorts of characters. And same thing, Charlie Robinson had me on his show, and we were talking about his DMT experience on a beach. same thing. He saw these grid lines above him whenever he did it, and he went in. And that's the thing with DMT. If anybody out there has never done that, this is the smoked version that I'm talking about. And 5 stars, by the way. If anybody is looking for a psychedelic that is impactful but doesn't take a big commitment, and not a physical one, not a physical toll, DMT, guys, all the way. There's absolute characters there, and you can experience things, but that is almost like a cheat code to this place, as I understand it. That's sort of not DMT specifically, just psychedelics, these altered states, these mantras, these breathing exercises. Because I did some breath work with Brandon Powell on this retreat in Utah, and dude, that was one of the biggest psychedelic experiences I've ever had, and it was just breath, and that was it. So there's amazing avenues that you can glimmer that this place is exceptional, and I think that for folks just coming into this, maybe there are some stories like that for them as well, and I think that that's an attractant, is that you've either expanded your mind in some way, and this can just be breathwork and education. I mean, it doesn't have to be anything extreme, just thinking a little bit differently and choosing different paths. And it's just a fascinating reality we're presented with. So what do you guys think is up next for this place? Like, what is in the media? Because there's a lot of energy, a lot of talk, a lot of like, this is about to go on with the aliens, and I mean, there's just so much happening right now. Is it almost to this boiling point with me, to where I'm just like, dude, just show us, like, put the ships out here, like, fly them over my land or something like that. Like, just come on down, like, blue beam it up. What's going on? So what do you guys think?
Jarin, what do you think?
My first answer is I have no idea.
Yeah, yeah.
I honestly have no idea. I think there's so many scenarios out there. I do know this. If we thought the last couple of years was a lot, it was nothing. It's nothing compared to what's coming now. And that is not to provoke fear. That's just it's just what is. It's just what is amidst this ascension. And I think that no matter what happens, hopefully more of us are going inside and doing the inner work to transform ourselves and to manifest what we want to experience. No matter what, not to get into teacher mode again, but that's what I think is more important than anything else, is who are you and where are you going? Yeah.
It's wonderful advice, and I love that. Do you feel this intuitively, or have you been given advice and messages? Have you been given any insight in that this is going to be what you're expecting? Because I've heard this from quite a few other folks, and I just want to know what makes you say this confidently, because you do have that look in your eyes that you're privy to something.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I could quote off 1,000 people I listen to and have learned info from and all that, but like, it's inside, it's intuitive. I mean, prior to the COVID experience, kind of knew it was coming. During it was kind of like, okay. I mean, I don't know the practicalities. I don't know the way the story will pan out, but it's like, come on. And people are getting all into the politics and I'm like, you guys are looking at too many good and bad guys and trying to make presumptions based on information you just have no idea about. Yeah. And what's clear is, there's a small percentage really, really awakening. Then there's a very, very small percentage that's, let's call it the dark side, ruling what's going on and trying to influence things, the simulation or the natural order of things. Then you have this wide range of people in the middle, and what are they going to choose? And where are they going to go? And how are they going to react? And what's my natural habitat going to react to? And so it's more of an intuitive thing, but it's not fearful. It is unsettling, and you don't know what each person will choose. And I really have no idea, even though I could talk about intending reality and creating your reality, right? I don't know where I'll be tomorrow. I have no idea what actually will happen. I just have the trust that there's an organic field behind all those that view the great spirit or the oneness, the prime creator source, that will always be there with you, always support you, always guide you to where you to go, no matter what's going on out there in the program and in the mainstream. And so you have to be prepared to follow that intuitively, and to be able to, know when to let go, no one to take action, no one you need to make a big change, no one you don't need to make any, like Greg said, just observe, become objective and say, slow down. It's all fine. I'm in my own bubble. Let it pan out, and but there's definitely more on the horizon. I mean, we can see it. You can see the patterns. They have the cosmic texts have the patterns. So when we look at things we're not going into right now, but they'll talk about 2027, and you can see it clearly. And then when you look at the 2030 agenda, roughly the same time, you can see that clearly. And it's kind of like, well, how is this story going to pan out? Well, a lot of chaos, because that's the only way to create a new order. That's the only way to transform. It can't just be the same and be the same beliefs and the same way and the same everything else and the systems in the world and live the world we want to live. There has to be chaos, and resonance has to occur for you to, experience what you wish to experience. And, what's out there may be out there, and I play in it too. Like, you walk around and you see what's going on out there. And it's like, whoa, what? Sometimes I feel like I shifted. Like,
Yeah.
What is going on? It's like overnight, I'm seeing what the stories talked about forever in 1984 or whatever else. You're like, what is going on? I mean, it's happening. But for many of us, it's like we go through our own personal karmic battles. We're going through our personal challenges and our, what's in our field. That's hard for all of us. I don't care. Anybody out there be lying that would saying it's easy right now. But it's different because we're unfolding a box that feels like fulfillment and feels like service and feels like joy and growth for us, no matter what the challenges are. But out there is going to be a wild scene, and it's kind of like a free for all a little bit. I think that's what chaos really means, right? There's no order. So there's going to be a little bit of a free for all, I believe, until we get to clarity, through the chaos.
Do you think we'll get clarity though? Because your analogy is great. It's kind of like opening a Christmas present, but getting paper cuts the whole time. You're just like, oh, I know there's a gift in here for me, but man, this sucks. You know what I mean?
Yes, I do believe there'll be moments where it just happens. There'll be some jumps in our life where it's like, whoa, now it really changed. Now we're really here. But enlightenment is never ending. You're never enlightened. So, you're never going to have full clarity. And that's the joy of life too, though. Because if you knew everything, then that'd be really boring. If you knew everything that was going to already happen, wouldn't that be pretty boring? I think. So,
yeah.
But I don't have any doubt. There's doubts on my day-to-day interactions and but there's no doubt in the overall macro scheme of anybody that would even tune into this talk that you're not on your path. The cosmos has your back, and that you have great gifts in front of you, and that you have your gifts to release, to give to the others. And it's time to do so.
Absolutely beautiful. Greg, what do you think, dude?
Well, much like Roddy Piper in They Live, he takes the glasses and he puts them on, right? And he sees all of the consumers and the zombies and everything else. The more and more that's happening in the world right now, I'm seeing it more and more and more. Things are being uncovered in every aspect. Now, you can get all caught up in one of those aspects and devote your entire life on that one subject, but you're going in a direction that isn't for you. You have to back up and say, everything's going in chaos. And we're just going to let it go, let it work its way out. Change is difficult on human beings. We don't like change. And so COVID showed us a huge change in our lives. I never thought I would have lived through something like that. I was like, wow, we have to stay home? Wow, we have to mask everywhere we go? Wow, Bob's small business can't be open, but Walmart can, and anybody can go in there? What the hell? So the hypocriticalness and the complete imbalance of rules was actually a good thing for everybody because it shook certain mass of people awake. They started to go, fuck no, I don't want to do this. This isn't how I want to live. And what it does is collectively it starts changing things. That's why the world looks like chaos right now. That's why, we have a lot of gender confusion. We have a lot of fighting in political parties that more than ever. We have a lot of people supporting this country or supporting that country. What the hell what do you have to do with that country? Like, how is that on a daily basis affecting your household? Like, there's just so much we get wrapped up in. And we feel like we need to symbolize for some reason all of these things and put it on our chest and say, this is who I am, because we don't have our own identity. We don't know who we are. That's why you want that. It's easier for you to identify with something on the external than identify with something on the internal. And that's what limitless mindset's all about, the inside out. We have to live from the inside out. And this is what the whole lesson of the whole planet is. Inside out. Don't worry about your neighbor. Don't worry about the news. Don't worry about the government. Don't worry about this or that. They will all go away if you just start living from the inside out. If a billion people start living from the inside out, they no longer exist. That's the big picture of it all, in my mind. And that's how it all gets destroyed. Now, I don't know who comes along and who doesn't, who fights so hard to keep what they have because they don't want change. I mean, there's people out there that want the government. There's people out there that want their lottery tickets and their cigarettes. And I'm not picking on people, but I'm just saying there's addictive behaviors that people do not want to leave, including TikTok or anything else, right? They're just addicted to these things. They don't know what to do. They don't know who they are without them. And that's why they're trying to identify with these things, these political parties and these symbolizations of countries and, oh my God, the border crisis. Like all of these things, I understand that you're a concerned citizen. But you got to be a concerned citizen from the inside out. Take care of you. Understand yourself. And then the whole world will follow. Right? You got to live for you. And that's the way I see it, Brandon.
Was that in vogue? Free your mind and the rest will follow. I love that, man. Well done. You're absolutely right. And it seems that the louder things get out there, right? That this is when it's never been more important to be within and to be resolved in you. Like Bashar says, like shit's going to get crazy, but there's glass walls up. And as long as you know that and you go within, then you're going to be fine. Because everybody, wherever you are right now, apparently, if you're listening to this for sure and wherever you're located, when whatever hits the fan, then you're going to be fine. Like you have been put in the exact spot. It's all this interesting confidence with number one, that some shit's going to go down. That's going to be monumental, but that also you're going to be absolutely fine. And the awareness of this is ubiquitous, I've found, within the community. So it's interesting to hear it echoed here, as well as to just hear your own personal thoughts on it. And I'm grateful for it, guys. You give just the insight and the clarity that y'all bring to the community is just so beautiful. And that's why, guys, Rise TV, check it out for sure. It's going to be linked below. Just check these gentlemen out. They're just absolutely incredible. So I wanted to now ask you guys just about some fun little theories about astrology. Jarin in particular, there's astrology that's floating around out there. There's memes all over the place with this. And then there's maybe different types of ways of interpreting that. What are your thoughts on astrology in general as it's being presented?
First of all, let me say this, because you said the word insight when I was going to say this. So let me close up the last segment, because Greg was saying something really amazing about the inside out. No matter what is going on, can we take pauses where we remember this? 3 steps to insight. Insight, sight from within. The core one is, who am I really? What's my real identity? Your real identity is a ball of light. It's consciousness. Okay. You're immortal, eternal, infinite, multidimensional being. So no matter what's going on within the hologram or the illusion or the simulation or what's going on in your mind, your body, and your emotions, which is just your remote control, you can take the steering wheel back and you can start to redirect your life. So you are an immortal spirit. The second thing is, who am I becoming? And that comes into like a little bit of the game here of in the human body, in this personality, and what role am I playing? Who am I becoming? What's the next version of yourself? So from that ball of light, throw all the rest away. I'm in silence. Now from inside, who am I becoming? What's next? What do I need to do next for me? And then last is, what direction am I going? What am I manifesting? Okay. And that's the most important more than anything else. If we can break the chains of the loops, which I even have challenges with all this extra stimulation and multitasking, like Greg said, go to the woods, throw it all away, remember who you really are, and then ask yourself where you're going and start to direct your life. And I just wanted to say that because I think that's something we can remember through the turbulence, if we can take pauses and do so. And if we do, in moments, we'll flick the switch and things will start changing. Synchronicities will start happening. People will start changing around you. You'll enter a whole different, reality for a few moments. But that's for another story. I just wanted to say that because you
Beautiful, Jarin. Thank you.
spoke the word insight, and I think so. It's like Greg said, inside out. That's, you got to remember who you really are, your real identity, not this identity of a name and a gender and a race and everything else that goes on. That's your real identity. Astrology makes up some of the suit that we're in. Whether you want to call it slavery, you want to call it a natural rhythm, it doesn't matter. It's there. But what it comes down to is it's like everything else that we've been, inverted in or lied to or whatever else, however you want to look at it. There's not 12 signs of astrology. So two of the major aspects of the quarantine or the false reality or the parallel reality or the inverted reality is the false use of language. So we use the word mantra earlier, right? So that's a big juicy word there, a thought vehicle or a mind tool, right? You transcend your consciousness through the mantra. Well, that's a word, sound. We use false words. We cast negative spells all the time. We believe and project these negative things because we don't know the meanings of things. We're living in a false reality that projects a lot of negativity as opposed to positivity. So one of them is the false use of language. The second one for me personally is the false use of time, which gets into astrology, into the rhythms of what's actually going on. So there are 13 constellations, not 12. Ophiuchus is very important. It's the constellation that has the element of ether or spirit. Okay. So the other 12 signs are earth, water, air, fire. That keeps you in the meat body. No, you're also spirit or ether. The 13th sign is partially what represents that. So there is a hidden sign that it's really there, but it's been hidden. And then there's the constellations are all different sizes, just like people and trees and everything else in this cosmos are. So they're not 30 degrees each. Most people think it's the horoscope switches every 30 days. No, some are big, some are little. And then lastly, you're in an ever-changing sky as we are rotating, even if it's around the false view of space. It is a fact that we are not in the same sky as 2,000 years ago. So through the precision, you have to rotate the dial. Even in the last 2,000 years, it means we have to rotate the dial 31 degrees. So what that does is it shows you that what you think is astrology and what people follow, and this is the pattern, this is what I'm supposed to do now, is all backwards. It's all in chaos and it's not within natural harmony. So when you start to learn true sidereal astrology, that's what I'm talking about here. True sidereal astrology and what is actually in the sky. If you took a telescope out, whether you call it God's sky, the natural simulation, the simulation that still quarantined us, but that's what it actually looks like. All these things can be true, but that's the real astrology. And why does it matter? Because even if people don't follow astrology, over time, they're sensing and attuning to a false rhythm, which kind of, if you think about our galaxy, right? If you kind of call it a galaxy, let's call it that. Let's just go by what we've been taught. Imagine that this little area has been walled off and separated from the rest, like a state that went rogue in the country, so to speak. And we're off pattern. Okay, we're off pattern. So we want to get back in the real patterns so that they can help us. So it can help us. So the cosmos can help us. And true sidereal astrology is what's accurately going on in the cosmos right now. And it's predetermined through your DNA who you are and what your traits are, what your interests are, and how your body works and how your quantum mechanics work. And that's what brings in the phrase human design that people hear about so much, that is based on the false tropical astrology. So people have their false charts. So the spell came in, got a lot of spiritual people following a false map, which I did for 8 years before I realized it was wrong. Took a year to intentionally manifest that it would come to be. Then it came to be. Greg and I had a show, 26 episodes, Cosmic Human Design on YouTube, with Richard Mason, who was able to calculate the true algorithm, which is real, pure, true. So your cosmic human design gives you a reference to your true makeup of who you really are, your code, your pattern. You always hear about, you just got to unlock your pattern. This is your pattern, this is your code, and this is your destiny, and this is the map of what you came here to do, so that you can explore your internal self, so that you can really just simply be you. That's what it's about, being you.
I've got to ask, why is it based on a sky that we can't see anymore, so we have to trust the wisdom of the ancients, not our own observable reality? Why don't we have the ability to create that from where we are now? My question is why do we need to get this information based on an antiquated system that we just have to take the word from, that's what it looked like at that time, and that's what it was based on? Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think I'm sure Greg will have some statements on that too, but that's just programming and people giving power to authority and just assuming it's correct.
Gotcha.
Right. And practically you can take it. That's what, since you asked about astrology, and I kind of went on a little bit of a deeper tangent with it, but why don't people do it? They don't want to do it themselves. They would just want to be told it and just believe it. True sidereal astrologists don't. They take the telescope out and they look.
Oh, okay. And well, you were saying
you can
I
see
misunderstood then. I thought that it was based on something that happened a long time ago, but this is still based on where you are now. The system is older. Okay.
Right now, it's saying that what they're telling you is going on in tropical astrology, and thus telling you what your sign is and what your human design is incorrect. It's a false self. It's an egoic self. It's not real. But people just take it at face value. So if you took a telescope out and you looked at the present day sky, this is what you would see. You would see the constellation sizes. You would see that there's actually, not see it, but there's 13 signs. And then you would see a different sky than they saw 2,000 years ago. We do not see the same sky or simulation sky that Jesus saw 2,000 years ago. And that's what that's all based off of.
Greg, has he done your sidereal, and has it changed for you at all? Like, do you have a comparison of this?
So I was a projector in both, but a lot of the inner workings of the details were changed drastically. So I definitely saw a difference, and I'll tell you, when I know my design, I don't know it in and out. I don't know it super detailed because I don't have to at this period of time. I just needed to know enough. And I started to realize that a lot of things I was doing were things that I was weak at. And the things that I was strong at, I wasn't doing enough of. So I started to implement that in my life. I'm a trial and error person. That's part of my cosmic human design. And when I started to implement all of that stuff, the stronger and stronger I got, and I started to really excel forward, as Jarin would tell you, with the show, with many things in my life. I started to really start to take steps forward instead of taking maybe 2 steps back and a step forward, or a step to the left and a step to the right, doing a dance, trying to figure out how to get forward. So this really helped me propel forward. It was a really good God's blueprint for me. I loved it, and being on that show with Jarin and Richard was a treat because of the knowledge they have in this and the way they calculate it. It's amazing, but doesn't it make so much sense that you look at the sky right now, and that's the sky that they're telling you is there, right? With true sidereal astrology. But
yeah,
if you look at tropical, that is not the sky we look at every night. That is way off. So why are you telling me this? Well, because the world is meant to do this. It's putting you off just a few degrees, right? If you're walking through the woods and you're just a couple of inches off in your direction, you start to go way out of your way by the time you make it out of the woods, right? You don't even know where you are anymore. They just give you a little bit of truth, and then they give you a little bit of false, and that little bit of false just eats at you your whole life. With money, right? You're always behind, you're lack, blah, blah, blah. They know how to manipulate you just so. And the tropical astrology is just another example of them manipulating you because they don't want you to know your true power. Because if your true power came out, they may cease to exist, whoever they are. And I don't know, whatever you said, maybe not bad, but whatever they are, they want to keep us where we are so we can keep creating for them and not creating for ourselves.
You've nailed it with that. What a great answer. Jarin, I'm so interested in getting with you and getting mine done now because, I mean, maybe I'm not this like Virgo sun, Leo rising, Libra moon, and maybe there are some things that contradict that actually are more suiting that I could research and go in that direction. Greg, you nailed it with this explanation, man, because that's what I wanted to know exactly is how did it affect, what did it change?
Mm-hmm.
And the example you gave was perfect, man. So, Jaron, I've got to get with you, dude. I need to get more educated on this, brother.
Well, I think that we all do. I think that when people learn their cosmic human design is one of the vital steps and maps for this ascension period, because you can remember how to be yourself. You can be authentic. It's just supporting you so that you can be you. 64-bit system, right? We think about technology. That all stems from organic elements, organic nature. We are a 64-bit system, and that's what the human design system is. You have zeros and ones. You have masculine and feminine. So each gene is either masculine or feminine in its origin. The gap or the number, right? Then the combination forms your uniqueness. You know, where's my intuition? Do I push? Do I pull? Am I invited? What's my life's work? What makes me healthy? What fuels my chi? What's my purpose? You know, what's my dharma? Blah, blah, blah. I could go on. And it gets complex, but in simplicity, which is what Greg was really excellent at, because he could see it in his profile. That's what he was talking about. Because it's just totally a different chart. So he just happened to move to a projector, but a projector is just one little element to it. You know, people think it's everything. It's not. It's only one part. But he could clearly see in his investigative explorer nature, you know, his introspective explorer nature. Wow, this is who I was. Because his old profile didn't say that. It was nothing like him. This one is exactly what it is for him. But for most people, you change everything. And even for Greg, every one of his genes changed. Every one of his spots will have changed. So it completely, it just blows human design and astrologists out of the water when they see it. And if they can grasp it and go with it, it's wonderful. Many can't because they're so programmed to the old one and they have so much money already attached to it and so much fame and whatever. They can't do it. They don't want to do it. And so they'll call this the conspiracy, and it's not. You're looking at what's real.
What if you offer both, even though perhaps you may say that one is more relevant or you prefer one over the other, and you could give that advice, you know, but also perhaps, I don't know, if the compromises boundaries to do so, but maybe give a reading of each.
Yeah. Well, to be transparent, for me in my personal field, anyone that I've came across, it's 100% flawless that people have said their own yes to it. They either got it right away or they eventually, a lot of old human design people that know a lot, even more than me, about the intellect part of it, said, holy shit, you're right. And they got there and it's been changing their life. So it's flawless for those that are on that frequency. And yeah, so we do that. I've done that in shows before, or talks where we compare a new chart and a false chart. And the reality is there can only be one. That's like saying, am I a male or a female? Am I 5'10" or am I 6'5"? I have genetic predisposition that causes this avatar to be what it is. And that's what this is looking at. The energy behind the genetics, the energy behind the body, the energy behind the meat suit, and how you function with the wholeness of the code. So I go on forever. So I'm gonna pump the brakes there.
I want you to, but we're wrapping up here in 2 minutes exactly, actually. So Greg, feel free to cut the feed at the top of the hour. And thank you so much for hosting this thing for us, dude, with all of the challenges that we experienced electronically this evening. But This is just absolutely fascinating, guys. In the remaining couple of minutes we have here, please plug the shit out of yourselves so that we can find out where they can find more about each of you and where they can find out more about your amazing channel and show that you guys have going on, please, guys. And this has just been a true honor. We absolutely have to do more of this. Thank y'all.
Well, we love you, Brandon. You've been a gift to us since you came into our lives, and we really enjoyed your time on the show with us. And we're definitely going to have you on again soon enough. And we really love being here with you because we vibe on that same level, and we both we're all kind of positive and optimistic in a lot of ways, and do a great job of just loving to research things and see things and explore things and have that curiosity. So that's what we have over on our show. RiseMediaTV.com is actually your best place to go now. I've really converted it over to a video site so that you can go over there and you can watch them all. You can watch them live. You can chat there live. And you can go click on all of our archive, not all of them, but most of the archive videos there. And also, we do that other show, the School of Om, Co-Manifestation, Co-Meditation, which are excellent events as well. Those are free, and those are on Wednesday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern. They are excellent if you want to come over and take a look at them. Joining us live is always a lot of fun because we're doing it all together as, hundreds or thousands of people, whatever it might be that night. But everybody kind of catches up with the replay eventually by the end of the week. But it's so much fun. We do so many different things on that show as far as chanting and imagination work and all kinds of stuff. So it's great stuff to empower people. But we're all about, that limitless mindset, empowering people, unlocking your I3 superpowers, imagination, inspiration, intuition, to go interstellar, as I've said, to have that inside living, inside explosion from the inside out is how we live. That's really you. That's the authentic you coming through. That's really using that, like I said, that teardrop that meets the ocean. You are now powerful from the inside out. You're no longer depending on that external to pump you up, give you confidence, to make you feel good, to give you great ideas. You are doing it through innovation, right? You innovate. Your intuition innovates for you. You come up with these amazing ideas. We're all uniquely gifted. So Rise TV is just our baby. We love it. We love our guests, and we have a lot of fun with our segments. Jarin, anything further on Rise TV and School of Om and all the stuff we do?
Well, just throw out there too, for those of you that are on Rumble, Rise Evolution with one E. One word, one E. Rise Evolution is our Rumble page, where you can also access all of our past shows with amazing guests, really amazing guests. As Greg said, go to Rise Media TV first, but also for those of you interested on Rumble, go over to Rise Evolution. And School of Om is about magic. It is about manifestation, and it's about actually applying energy to make a difference in our lives, not just gathering more info of what's out there in the world or what might happen, but actually using your energy to transform your world. It goes along with the Rise TV, our Sunday, every Sunday. That's our church, every Sunday show with always an amazing new guest. Sometimes you might know the name. They might be a big name, had some big ones. Sometimes it might be someone you don't know. And so we participate together. And I, as far as me personally, I'm a manifestation teacher and coach, as well as with the Cosmic Human Design. And so you can just email Jarin at JarinKenyon.com if you want to reach out to me personally to look at your Cosmic Human Design or to help you with the manifestation of your dreams. And so when we have a book coming out very shortly called The Rise Code, right, Greg?
Cannot wait. And we'll have you back on for it. Jarin Kenyon, Greg Schumacher, thank you so much, dude. Guys, this has been unbelievably remarkable. And just thank you, gentlemen, for your energy, your time, your healing, what you've done to get here, and just remain amazing and unstoppable, guys. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir.